What's up, everyone? Welcome to the May 23rd edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. You'll also receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100 on that first deposit. We have a 10-game MLB slate tonight. As usual, we're going to take a look at 3 of the top tournament stacks and 3 of the top tournament pitchers using the top stacks and top pitchers tools on the Awesemo.com website. Starting with the top 3 tournament stacks. Number 3, the Atlanta Braves have a very difficult matchup tonight against Zach Wheeler and the Philadelphia Phillies. Wheeler is, of course, a very solid pitcher, and that's been no different this year. He's struck out 25.9% of hitters. He has a 3.27 xFIP. The Braves only have a 4.2 implied run total, but they're projected for 1% ownership with a 4% chance of being the top stack tonight. Atlanta is one of the offenses where, kind of regardless of matchup, I'm willing to go to them in tournaments because they do have so much power and they also have speed in their lineup as well. Makes them a very high upside offense, even when their median projection is relatively low. Atlanta has a 95 WRC plus this season, but they also have a 168 ISO. They have Ronald Acuna back healthy, assuming he's going to be in the lineup tonight. So all of that makes, or he makes their lineup look a little bit better. And as I mentioned before, plenty of power, plenty of speed here. The team can, when they do well, they typically score a lot of points. They're not a lot of fantasy points. They're not one of these teams that is likely to just, single you to death. And even if they score 6 runs or 7 runs, it probably wasn't in an exciting way. When Atlanta scores a lot of runs, there's a good chance you're getting a lot of home runs, a lot of doubles, some stolen bases mixed in. Very high upside offense tonight, despite the difficult matchup against Wheeler. Number 2, the Milwaukee Brewers taking on Nick Martinez tonight in San Diego. Milwaukee has a 107 WRC plus this year. They have a 176 ISO, so one of the highest ISOs in baseball. Martinez has not been bad this year at all. 25% strikeout percentage for Martinez, 3.68 xFIP, but he has had some issues with home runs, allowing 1.56 home runs per 9 innings. And as I mentioned before, there is power in the Milwaukee lineup. They are currently projected for about 2% ownership with a 5% chance of being the top stack and a 5% chance of being the top value stack. And number 1, the Houston Astros taking on Tristan McKenzie in Houston. McKenzie has struck out 24.1% of hitters with a 4.21 xFIP so far this season. His walk rate is down from earlier in his career. That's one issue that he struggled with when he first came to the major leagues. He's very talented, has very good stuff, but this is a really difficult matchup for him going up against a Houston team that not only has a 181 ISO, but also a 116 WRC plus so far this season. They're projected for 6% ownership with an 8% chance of being the top scoring stack and 3% chance of being the top value stack. Now, looking at the top 3 tournament pitchers, number 3, Nick Martinez at $8,500 in that matchup that I mentioned against the Milwaukee Brewers. Martinez has struck out 25% of hitters this year, and he does have a respectable 3.68 xFIP. While Milwaukee has been above average offensively, both in terms of production and power, they do have a 23.8% strikeout percentage. So this is a spot where if Martinez is on top of his game, he can pile up some strikeouts tonight against the Brewers. He's projected for about 1% ownership with a 6% chance of being the top scoring stack and a 4% chance of being the top value stack. Number 2, Miles Mikolas, $9,600 taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays do have power. They do have a lot of good hitters in their lineup, but overall they have been a little bit below average offensively with a 95 WRC plus. They've struck out about 22.5% of the time. Mikolas leaves a lot to be desired in terms of strikeout percentage at only 18.7%, but he is typically efficient with his pitches. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. That does allow him, when he's pitching well, to get deeper into games, and it gives you a good chance at the quality start bonus that you can pick up on FanDuel. He's projected for about 1% ownership with a 6% chance of being the top scoring pitcher and a 3% chance of being the top value pitcher. And number 1, Luis Garcia, $10,100 price tag, quite a bit more expensive than he is on DraftKings. As a result, he's only pulling about 3% ownership on FanDuel, but he still has a 7% chance of being the top scoring pitcher, a 2% chance of being the top value pitcher. He has struck out 26.6% of hitters with a 3.79 xFIP so far this season. This is a difficult strikeout matchup against the Cleveland Guardians. Cleveland has Jose Ramirez, who's one of the most difficult players to strike out. They also have Steven Kwan, who's very difficult to strike out. Kwan, hopefully for Garcia, will be hitting closer to the bottom of the order, though, so he may not have to face him as many times as he faces Ramirez. But one way or the other, Garcia has some of the best strikeout stuff on the slate. He's not getting much ownership. And while we have seen him struggle to go deep in the games this year because Houston is cautious with his pitch count, he has been able to go at least 6 innings in 3 of his last 4 starts. So to recap, the top 3 tournament stacks on FanDuel: number 3, the Atlanta Braves; number 2, the Milwaukee Brewers; and number 1, the Houston Astros. And the top 3 tournament pitchers: number 3, Nick Martinez; number 2, Miles Michaelis; and number 1, Luis Garcia.